Let's get after daily trading recap for this Monday, the 14th of February, 2022. My biggest P&L day in the green since starting my trading career. Not throwing a crazy celebration or party or just going berserk, but I didn't even realize that fact until now that I was thinking about it. This is my biggest day that I've had, and I think certainly it's been downplayed a little bit since the week that I had last week of these little futures blunders that I've been taking and mistakes that I've been making along the way. Not that it's just stupid boneheaded stuff, but going through those recaps as well, it was just things I could have done better to prepare myself and to put myself in a better situation, or had the better perspective of the trade itself to be in there on those days. But coming into today, carrying that same perspective, but then applying also the ideology of, okay, what can I actually do today? But before I get into that, let's go to some just market internals for reference for me on the day. No other listed or equity tickers that I was in, and really not a lot of other red names in the chat putting anything, I don't want to say useful, or them doing anything crazy today either, which is just kind of unfortunate to see, but it is what it is. NASDAQ, $240 billion volume on the day. NYSE, $350 billion volume on the day. OTC is $2.2 billion volume on the day. We are 14 minutes after the close here. But overall, being able to scalp some moves on the S&P 500 through the means of ES and MES pretty nicely today. Using a lot more, or I found the resource end of last week or this weekend of Spot Gamma from, they had a video on NinjaTrader. So diving into their resources and some of their offerings, and which I find very intuitive and similarly aligned their digestion of the gamma of the market, and applying that similarly to the ways of moving averages or Bollinger Bands and Fibonacci's. And I feel this gamma prediction, the gamma index or their gamma standard deviations, do have a little bit more weight and just a little bit of a leg up. Not that it's just so directly correlated, because obviously there are more moves in the market than just from the options market, but getting a true understanding of where is hedging coming in, where are the big players being forced to step in and take measures, or is there a lot of foot play going on here, getting to establish a new trend coming in, or uncertainty of where the trend could go, or is it just smooth sailing, and are we just looking to play for that type of price action within intraday here based on any of those Greeks before pre-market or in pre-market. So I find that very intuitive, and kind of mentioning on the same line, I interpret it as the same line of moving averages and Bollinger Bands and Fibonacci's, in which that they really don't have any weight whatsoever, like the moving averages or Bollinger Bands, whatever. They don't have any weight unless a lot of other people place weight on them. Because if everybody's looking at the 5-day moving average and then everybody's trading off of that, obviously it's going to have a lot of weight. But that doesn't mean that it specifically has weight or influence for a specific reason. It's just because a lot of people are using it to trade off of. So that's the reason why it has trading value. But this metric of the gamma and the way to trade off of that is a similar line, that it's not so much of a determined 100% probability that stock market is going to do this today, but more so a glimpse behind the curtain as, okay, here's a little bit more of an understanding of the type of waters that we're treading here for this market today. And so using that as just more of a backbone and guidance for this strategy that I definitely want to go towards more of, not that I did today, but the strategy of kind of going for that spread, of trying to just trade volatility. And it's just very interesting, the little steps I'm taking here of how to go about that, especially on days like today, where I come in short biased with the market conditions that we had. We had a negative 0.43 gamma index, which I'm just continuing to track and put back testing on and try and get a grasp of that myself. So I'm spewing that out as if I have any understanding of what it actually is. But 0.43 gamma index, meaning that we do have a lot of uncertainty, more volatility coming in. The more positive we're getting, the more refined is the word that's coming to my mind. More consolidated, we're going to be less volatile if we're getting a positive gamma index, but we're negative 0.3, which is pretty widespread for the past few months we've been trading here, meaning it could go whichever way it wants, but we're obviously leaning towards a little bit more downside since these past two previous trading day market days that we've been in. And coming into today, we had a bigger gap down on the futures from the Sunday open into today. Standard deviation that Spot Gamma was looking at was a 1.4% move either direction of potential volatility. We had VIX at 30 today too, which I like to see as it's climbing back up there to start trading this spread trade more and more. So I'm throwing out all those just metrics, and I place a lot of similar weight on all of them and just try to keep them in the forefront or aware of them as I'm exploring this new trading route. But really just don't have a hard weight on, the VIX needs to be at this specific number, or the Gamma Index needs to be at this specific number for me to trade these. Still exploring, still experimenting with all those, but excited about it either way. To the individual trades themselves, I'll get into, like I mentioned, want to become into this market short bias with how we traded, mirroring this day similar to the 24th of January from this year, of how we also had a similar spot Gamma Index around like the -0.4, -0.3-ish range on this day as well. Having a hard similar sell-off-ish week coming into this Monday as well, which was another Monday, and then gapping down harder into market open before the bell rang, and then just kind of sold off pretty much all of the morning session, and then continued even to the afternoon session, putting in the low just after lunch, 12:30ish range, before having a massive green climb up to close the day, which was pretty insane. But looking for that short morning sentiment bias on this one today was my real perspective push today, what I came into the market looking for, all the while keeping in, not just trying to blanket the market open or blanket somewhere in pre-market, just looking to ride the wave down, but seeing, hey, are we going to get a little tricky volatileness? Are we going to get a little up move? And then I'm going to look to short in somewhere into there and then ride a move potentially down from there. Maybe take on a little bit of risk as it goes behind me, as I'm sitting short and it's still trading up and doing a little bit of craziness, being willing to let it go down, but giving it enough time to breathe from the market open in order for it to do that and just kind of stretch its legs on this Monday open before it did have any amount of sell-off or continuation to the downside. And it did have a little bit. If we're looking at, before I get into the trades again, I'm cutting myself off, but it did have that a little bit, but it was holding green into that afternoon session. Then all of a sudden we just get the peel back a little bit to VWAP, and then starts to have the pull off that breaks to this low that was put in during pre, but then just holds that level and continues to ride back to the upside of VWAP and close just under open. We're closing at 0.3, a third percent in the red from that Friday's close, which is interesting to see that it wasn't more of a red day sentiment, which I thought it would be, especially for how late back in the day this sell-off was. But buying pressure was coming in to save the day before the close on this one. Now I'll get into the individual trades that I was taking based off of that perspective and trade preparation. Knowing that, okay, we're putting in a higher low here as we're in pre-market, and I'm thinking, I know I want to be short biased, but I don't want to be holding into the open. I don't want to be holding that volatility or this little range. So I'm going to take a short here of just one ES contract. If I get a few points, great. It gives me a little bit of padding to then help myself maintain my, not so much FOMO, but being able to withstand risk. If I try to identify a top during 10-15 minutes after the market open, a range like this, and then it starts to fall short, looking for a move like that, I can take on a little bit of risk because now I'm padded, since I know we could get a little bit of pullback on this higher low here into market open. So that was a little cheeky trade. I think I made 2 points off of that. These arrows are not specific at all. They're all one ES contract that I was trading both ways each time on them. And yeah, they were trading on the ES. So they're just kind of rudimentary points on the SPY chart that which I was trading them on ES. Coming into market open, we just had an immediate perk after that first minute. It was kind of getting toppy here. And again, another cheeky, I think it just could have a quick little reversal here. Take another 1-2 points off of that as well. Pad the account again to say, okay, yeah, these are cheeky. They are not, I wasn't looking for the move from that point, but it's just like, that's the game. I'm not proud of it, but there's certainly, had they been losers, I would certainly be knocking myself and restricting myself from ever doing that again within this near-term future. But for the meanwhile of just, hey, there's a top being put in here and identifying that, taking it for the quick scalp that it is for my size account, that's certainly willing to do that for the meantime. But if those same size moves start to become losers, they can very quickly start to eat against me, as was shown in last week on my P&L for how quickly these types of futures trading can eat into a small account like mine. But either way, we do get the pull off and beautiful range bound little spread opportunity right out of the gate. Within this high here, we got to 0.3% to the upside from the open price, and we're hitting at this low here at 0.21% to the downside from the open. And then, of course, we do get break below that after that move. So had I come into today on that same thesis that I carried from the past week and that I've been trying to push a little bit more with my data collection, would have been an awesome $1,200 day. Just getting blanket short 1 ES contract, getting long 10 MES, and looking for 0.25% from the open price and just setting my stop limit orders around there, just letting it do what it wants to do. And it would have been a very awesome little morning session, get in, get out, would have hit me very nicely there, which I was not expecting because of those volatility metrics and because of that January 24th day as well, that it wasn't offered there on that day either. Just a very little perk above VWAP, but then rejection of fuller sentiment to the downside of beyond any range boundedness or little pinging up and down that we saw today. I can even look at the tick here, which I traded concurrently as well on my little entries for those scalpings, to looking for buying pressure, looking for selling exhaustion, and vice versa that way, and applying that to the individual time frames that I was looking at. It's hard to go back and forth here between the time frames, what I was looking at, but using the bias of, okay, geez, we're getting kind of buyer exhaustion here at these peak prices. That's what especially I used for this short trade here. That was my big breadwinner on the day that made me say, okay, yeah, we're going to be done for the day. That was all I really wanted or needed to see. Even though I did cut it pretty short, there was some room left on the table. But before I get into that one of, yes, trading off of that tick and not so much using it because I was in more of a scalpy mood, using the scalpy instrument of the tick to be able to see, okay, yeah, we're reaching. I know the ADD is here at this point. We're taking a look at that now. ADD was just kind of hovering, going up and down, of saying, okay, now as we're turning here, we're getting pretty green on the day. That's what I was using for, or that's what I was seeing on these ones. These that I got twice in and out, shopped around on of, okay, now we're breaking low a day, and I'm thinking there's more downside, continuing that bearish sentiment of I'm still looking for more downside from here, waiting for the confirmation and kind of buying at or selling at weakness to enter the trade. But even at that, I thought there was more room beyond that. I didn't think it was a chase at this point. I was waiting for, I knew I was going to be chasing if I was trying to pick the bottom candles here still to get short, but giving it time to, hey, let it breathe out. Is this really the downtrend sentiment? Give it a few more candles as it's kind of basing here. If it continues to go down, then there's going to be plenty more downside. I don't have to be so precise, spot on with the specific entry. There's going to be plenty of points to the downside. I don't have to rush a downtrend move intraday on this one. I can let it breathe on what it wants to do. But then reading the ADD, reading the signs there, reading the cues, all of the other FANG stocks, the Teslas, the Amazons, the Microsofts, to say, okay, yeah, where they're trading at now, I don't think the sentiment is there as of yet. I thought they were aligned for my entry points on these trades, but gosh, they're just not doing it for me at this point. So let's cut them and move on to the next one. Let's clear our perspective. Let's release the chains that I have on me now of, God, I really need this to drop right now. I just really need it to drop. And clearing my palette and saying, okay, let's open our eyes to the new perspective and realize, okay, the trend is reversing here. It's going to go back to VWAP. Sure enough, it does. Top gets put in there, identifying that off of the tick, realizing it's exhausting at like the 600 level. The time frame was at just before 10:15, 10:14-ish. Using that, right around this point as we're getting here of now it's topping the most buying pressure that we've seen on the day, but it's still not breaking to the new high of days. It's not even close to the high of day that we've already had. So using that as a point of, okay, this could be a nice little scalp. Maybe we get a similar move to like we did right out of the gate on the morning little scalp there. But sure enough, it did have some more downside and locking in profits. As it was already then that selling pressure comes in to then immediately test hard to the downside at that 1,000 mark on the tick. And saying, hey, I'm not going to try to, I did step away from for this trade of this picking a top here, this one coulda, shoulda, woulda, and what I was preparing for in pre-market today was trying for this to be that downtrend sentiment trade. Whereas then I pick the top here and I get lucky, and it kind of happens right after I get my entry. Then it starts to peel off and just kind of does whatever it wants to do, fiddles around VWAP, but then just continues to grind away and chip at new lows. And this whole block here ends up happening right after this move here that we break to like 436 after that rejection. And I lucked out that it didn't happen there at that point, because I would definitely then have scolded myself on, okay, look at all these points that we missed out on. That was the original trading plan coming into today. Why didn't we follow that? But even looking back at it for the hindsight that it was of, yeah, I did kind of luck out. And had I still gone with that trading plan of holding through this drop off, through very nice point drop from where I was on the short side, holding through this, doesn't really touch VWAP, but rejects off of that, comes to break a new low, but still kind of holding, pushes to another high attempt, but lower high, but still again another higher low as it's trying to break here, double bottoming, now peeling back to the upside of VWAP. I probably would have gotten off worse. I probably would have taken less of a profit trading with that methodology than what I did with just kind of running away with a very nice little immediate scalpy move. So they're all factors to consider, and of course then that allows me to, my mental capital was just totally free and able to understand what was going on with the rest of the charts and everything that I was doing. And I knew that was going to be the end of my day after that trade there. I said, okay, sweet, awesome. Nailed that little move, but certainly more left to take, but not after it already went on to slap a little new high of day intraday market hours, and then break to new low day from there. Just super volatile all around, but that is the SPY itself. And yeah, lots of talking, lots of learning and growth from this little strategy. Glad it was a profitable P&L day. Just insane, this modality of futures trading, and how you can just be so quickly in the red, the exact awesome profit you were of, and just respecting the double-edged sword that is certainly there in that futures market that way. But definitely want to continue to pursue the algorithmic approach to this SPY trading, ES and MES, because of that emotional factor for how much more expanded these volatile ranges are compared to the small cap sectors, the OTCs, of how they can sometimes, respect technical levels or true bottoms, true tops. SPY, oh my gosh, just does not care about, sometimes it does. Nothing's ever 100%, but of how much more so it can just barely tick you out to new high of days here. Look at these three little triple toppy attempts, or these new expanding little double bottoms here. How many times it can do that, or be range bound, or similar days like this where it looks like it's just going to be a hard day in the red after this little high of day rejection here. This, again, another little triple toppy, breaks down hard. Looks like it's going to continue to push through these lows, but sure enough, reclaims to the upside of VWAP and just closes barely red even on the day. So that's a SPY. It is quite the animal, and I'm excited to be a part of it and start expanding myself as a trader with this modality of futures that way. So very thankful for today. Nothing that I've got for scans on the equity side, or nothing that I'm watching for tomorrow as of right now. We'll just keep our eyes on it to keep ourselves in the loop. But yeah, certainly going to crunch some more numbers, look at some more Excel spreadsheets, continue to pound away at back testing and just understanding how we can get more algorithmic and less emotional. Take the emotion out of it, because there is that factor of, well, we can develop the emotions, we can understand how the SPY, the characteristics of the S&P 500, how it likes to move, and the different avenues that it does have to affect its trading. But it's exciting. It's awesome. I'm thankful for it. And I thank you guys for watching. We will catch you guys on the next one.